stick as an important part of the game controller today. It's very important, but in most cases, the scraping of the controller is also due to the drift, which is always a pity. Everyone's understanding of stick is much lower than that of joysticks. Some may first think of Alps when they mention joysticks, but why Alps? The question, from the perspective of hardware alone, how can it be considered an excellent joystick? What are the working principles of the carbon film stick and the whole stick? The whole stick is wonderful. Why are most manufacturers still not using it? Let me find out together today. Not counting arcade joysticks and home console joysticks in ancient times, since the N64 first introduced analog joysticks, a total of 3 kinds of joysticks have been used on controllers. In addition, there is also a photoelectric encoder type stick. The principle is to convert the mechanical geometric displacement of the output shaft into a digital value through photoelectric conversion. Currently, only the original N64 was equipped. In fact, according to the user experience, it is very top-notch in terms of accuracy and linearity, and it is not subject to any environmental interference. But among all the controllers, the photoelectric encoder stick was ruthlessly discarded after only one use, which shows that it has a fatal flaw. Can you guess why? The price is too outrageous. It can be said to be sky high. In addition, the complex structure also makes its yield rate abnormally low. Now it is mainly used in high-end medical equipment and military fields. It has never appeared since the N64 controller, so today we will not talk anymore. Next, let's talk about the carbon film potentiometer stick and the whole magnetic induction stick in detail. Until today, the joysticks used by most controllers, including Yusanjia, are based on the carbon film potentiometer scheme because the cost is low and it can guarantee the service life of 2 million times. For early controllers, this data is enough. Therefore, it has been used for nearly 20 years, and Alps, as the world's largest manufacturers of carbon film joysticks, has also become the biggest winner. But with the passage of time, many users found that the drift has become a headache. Many players may have experienced joystick drift, but few people know why, and this starts with its working principle. Many players should think that the potentiometer is located inside the joystick, but this is not the case. The interior is just a mechanical structure, and the potentiometer is located in the 2 side covers. iFixit once disassembled the joystick of the PS5 controller. After removing the side cover, we can clearly see the working principle of the joystick. It is to use the mechanical structure of the stick to drive the metal contact to rotate on the carbon film, thereby converting the resistance signal into a digital signal. But obviously a new problem will arise. That is, the metal contact will be rubbed on the surface of the carbon film for a long time. Scrape up the toner, the free toner will be randomly absorbed on the metal contacts, thereby changing the original resistance value and eventually causing the joystick to drift. In fact, the problem of being less excited than moving is not simply a drift, but also affects the linear value of the putter. But the drift problem is most likely to be perceived by the player. It is an unsolvable problem. In addition, although the structure of the old Joy-Con stick is different, the principle is the same. All are realized by carbon thin potentiometer. The difference is that the bottom of the Joy-Con joystick uses a soft circuit board, which is extremely prone to deformation, so the chance of drifting is even higher than that of standard-size joysticks. At present, all the stick factories in the products have a maximum lifespan of 2 million cycles for the carbon film stick, and this is also the limit life of the carbon film stick at this stage. So how long can the life of 2 million times be used? In fact, action racing games are fine if it is an FPS game that consumes a lot of joysticks. Then it will be ridiculously low. The data given by iPhysics is that players play Call of Duty for about 400 hours. What is the concept? If you can play 5 to 6 hours a day, then you have to change the handle after more than 2 months. Of course, the 2 million laps is still achieved under ideal conditions. If hand sweat, dust, moisture and other elements in the actual use process are taken into account, then this time will be greatly reduced. Although ALPS is recognized as the ceiling of the stick, the carbon film stick can be said to have come to an end here, and there is no room for breakthrough. So why is ALPS the best choice in carbon film stick? At present, there are 3 international manufacturers of carbon film joysticks that do well. In addition to the Japanese ALPS we just mentioned, the remaining 2 are Shenzhen K-Silver and Taiwan Fogo, formerly known as Puyao. This is the current product of K-Silver, mainly around the layout of potentiometer, sensors and switches. Today, we only talk about the joystick. The joystick of K-Silver is no different from ALPS in terms of mechanical structure. The highest lifespan is the same as 2 million times with ALPS. At present, we have a wide range of customers such as Baby Tang, Guli, Razer, Beitong, Xiaoji, GPD and so on, but most of them are used in the low-end products, and most of the flagship products still use ALPS. Since the structure is the same, why choose ALPS? I believe that many people should have discovered that the core of the carbon film stick is the carbon film, and the carbon pedal used by ALPS is the best in the industry. Whether it is the service life or the stability of the resistance value, and currently only ALPS is using it, and it is not for sale. Therefore, in the most core part of the joystick, ALPS still holds the absolute right to speak. Since it is so good, why can other manufacturers achieve the same lifespan of 2 million times? Since There is no better carbon pedal. K-Silver chooses to optimize it physically. First of all, when we disassembled the K-Silver stick, we will find that they have coated a layer of grease on the performance of the carbon film to reduce the friction of the metal contacts on the carbon film. In addition, corresponding modifications have been made to the metal contacts, and wrapping points are added to further reduce friction. Finally, the elastic force of the metal contacts is strictly controlled. In fact, the core ideas of these 3 points are the same, all of which are to reduce friction, and there must be gains for what you give up, although the lifespan has increased. The disadvantage is that the individual differences of the K-Silver joysticks have become greater, and they are relatively consistent in terms of consistency. It is worse than Alps. In fact, the problem of large individual differences in joysticks has always been a headache in the industry, and Alps, including Alps, has not completely solved this problem. There are even people who bought the controller and experienced drifting when they got it. The main supplier of Alps products is Yusanjia, although the model parameters of the joystick are the same. Yusanjia still enjoys the privilege of special adjustment during the supply process. Therefore, the Alps joysticks used by third-party manufacturers also have great individual differences. It can only be said that the physics of the stick and the stick cannot be generalized. Finally, there is Puyao joystick in Taiwan province. Their main customers actually have a very high degree of overlap with K-Silver, but the difference is that Puyao is currently the only joystick factory that cooperates with Sony besides Alps. At present, the batch of joysticks that have been turned over by PS5 controllers on a large scale are basically from Puyao. In fact, they cannot be blamed for this. The core reason is that their upstream suppliers secretly replaced raw materials for them, so Puyao himself is also a victim. At present, Sony has resumed cooperation with them. After all, the Alps factory is in Dandong, Liaoning. Some time ago, due to the epidemic situation, the supply of joysticks was insufficient, and Puyao stepped forward again. In fact, Puyao's joysticks have always been very good in the industry. 10 years ago, Puyao was definitely the strongest joystick supplier besides Alps. However, in recent years, Puyao seems to have been living on its laurels and has not done other research and development, so it has stagnated itself. The above 3 are the main joystick suppliers in the world at this stage, and the rest are basically manufacturers who they are not OEM. The handles above 150 yuan should not be equipped with joysticks from other manufacturers. Anyway, all the handles I have dismantled are from the above 3 companies. It can be seen that the carbon film stick has been developed to the limit so far. If you want to cure the drift problem, you can only bring about revolutionary change in the entire industry. At this time, a technology that is not new has appeared before people's eyes again, the Hall joystick. In fact, the Hall stick is not a new technology, nor is it a new technology. Microsoft Hall trigger has been used for nearly 10 years, and its stability and accuracy are far better than traditional potentiometer triggers, and its lifespan is accompanied by the handle for life. As for the Hall joystick, as early as 1998, Sega equipped its DC handle with a Hall push rod. Later, Sony also adopted Hall joysticks on their own PS3 and PSV 1000 respectively, and both achieved good responses. Presumably, those who know the Hall trigger must know its principle, mainly through a mercury magnet and an electromagnetic IC, and through the change of position, the signal generated by the electromagnetic change is converted into a digital signal because the two will not be in the working process. No physical contact occurs, so the pull down solves the drift problem at its root, unless mechanical damage occurs. Of course, compared with the carbon film stick, there are also disadvantages because it is the electromagnetic signal received at first. When we put a magnetic next to the Hall stick, it will also drift, including the Hall trigger. However, this shortcoming is also easy to solve. Just remove the magnet and it will be okay. In addition, the cost is about 15% higher than the carbon film stick, but this price is already very cheap compared to before. Finally, the power consumption is higher than that of carbon film potentiometer, but these problems are harmless compared to drift. So the question is, since the Hall joystick is so good, why are fewer people using it now? I watched the dismantling video of the grand handle made by iFixit, and they are also very optimistic about the prospect of the Hall stick in the video. But what we didn't expect was that there were a lot of conspiracy theories in the comment area. Many foreigners think that Yu Sanjia's plan is scrapped, and they deliberately don't upgrade the joystick so that after drifting, players will buy the controllers directly. How should I say it? You don't think so, do you? I personally don't think so. After all, the joystick drift has made the scalps of these three masters numb. I personally don't feel that way, so there's no reason to do so. What's more, Sony also does not hesitate to add expensive modular joysticks to the latest Elite controllers. In fact, the reason is very simple: the cost problem. Yusan does not have a joystick production line, and there has been no supplier of Hall's joystick on the market before. Therefore, if you want to do it, you can only develop and produce it yourself, like Sega, Sony, because it is only supplied to itself. The production volume is far less than that of suppliers, so it is really difficult to control the cost. After the cost is reflected in the selling price. Consumers need to pay more, but if the stick factory is used, the price of the whole stick will not be so exaggerated. At this stage, there are currently two domestically produced Hall joysticks, namely Guli and K-Silver. This is Guli's Hall stick, which is manufactured by K-Silver. This is K-Silver's Hall joystick, which is self-produced and sold. And the difference between the two may not be felt from the appearance. If we take it apart, we will find the difference. Gulijia's Hall stick adopts a split design, and the Hall sensing IC is placed on the PCB, so it is also called a split Hall stick. On the other hand, K-Silver has an integrated design, and the IC chip is directly built into the joystick. The inner part of the two modules has a small piece of PCB which can be used directly. As for the two solutions, it can be said that they have their own advantages and disadvantages. Because of the split type solution used in the joystick of Guli, the distance between the magnet and the IC is farther away, so the electromagnetic interference is less, and the quality control is correspondingly easy to control. But the problem also comes with it. That is, the PCB needs to be modified. For users, it may not have any impact, but it is more troublesome for third parties. Guli needs to provide full technical support, which is not conducive to the promotion of joysticks. The advantages of the integrated joystick of K-Silver are obvious. It can be directly interchanged with the carbon film stick 121, but at this stage, it is not recommended for players to interchange it by themselves, especially the controllers of Sony and Microsoft, and the automatic calibration function has not been activated in these two airspaces unless you have the ability to crack Isanjia's handle. Otherwise, the vehicle will overturn at this stage. In addition to traditional joysticks, the Joy-Con joysticks produced by the two companies have also finished products. I'm lucky here. I'm coming here. After taking it apart, it is found out that the internal structure of the two is quite different, but they are exactly the same in terms of principle. They are all sliding Hall sticks, and the signal is obtained by driving the slider through the structure. Because there is no friction, there is also no drift, and this time the IC is integrated inside the joystick, but again uses a hard board for the PCB material, and it does not support the Joy-Con handle at this stage, and can only be used in the field of handheld devices and other fields. It is impossible to achieve one-to-one interchange with Joy-Con. K-Silver is the same soft board as Nintendo, and it can also be replaced with a Joy-Con joystick one-to-one in terms of function. In addition, there is an additional design detail on Guli, that is, the stick cap is replaceable, and stick caps of different sizes may be produced in the future, but because it is a professional stick, K-Silver still has made a VR specific Hall stick, but today we mainly talk about the joystick of the handle, so I won't talk about it. Finally, I would like to share you a point of science popularization. Many people has such a doubt before. Why do they use Alps? Some handles have dead zones, but some do not. In fact, this problem can be divided into two situations. First, because the joystick factory is only responsible for supplying joysticks and the dead zone and other algorithm needs to be polished by the joystick factory itself. Therefore, the joystick use has nothing to do with the final performance. It has to be solved by the handle factory itself. Of course, there is another situation. In order to solve the drift problem, some low-end joysticks will print a silver layer at a certain angle in the middle of the carbon film, which is equivalent to forcing a physical dead zone. There will be resistance changes which will seriously affect the experience of the game. If we look back at the development history of the analog joystick, we will find that the whole joystick was only a flash in the pan for a long time before, and the main theme has always been the carbon film potentiometer. With the continuous improvement of requirements, the comprehensive popularization of Hall stick has become a matter of time. Because of the channel attributes and other reasons, I was also fortunate to have close contact with several joystick manufacturers, so I contributed to this video and finally shared it with you. I think in the near future, with the continuous development of the Hall stick, the word drift may be gradually forgotten by players. Thank you all for watching.